Everybody, good morning. JTT subscribers and members and everybody, welcome. Jeffrey Turnmeyer Trading, welcome. Hey, Logan, Arturo, Rex, Rob, JB, Sergio, Frank, Goose in the house. Lieutenant Colonel Goose, good to see you as always. John, Gary, Will, Svenborn, all the way from Iceland. Cliff, Dan, Ted, Darren. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. As always, if you want to chat with me while I am live, click the button down here. Be a subscriber on the channel. A few seconds later, you can chat. And I tell you what, it pays to know a guy. Rongamer got my windshield wiper fixed yesterday. Thank you. Appreciate that. I definitely really appreciate that. I mean, nothing like driving around with a bunch of crap on your window and not being able to clean it, right? I mean, really handy. Really handy. And went out of his way to get me that windshield wiper fixed. So, do appreciate that. And that was the best service I've ever had with anything. I tell you what. Say I'm a fanboy, but it's a pretty good product. I mean, it does good stuff. And look at that chart ripping. Look at the chart. I mean, it's right up there. Look at that baby. I did add back yesterday a little bit of my TSLL. Look at that baby go. I didn't sell all of it in the beginning, so I still have quite a bit of it from 10. And we're sitting there ripping again. So TSLL, just in case you don't know. Look for this thing to pop on off. Maybe all the way up here to 50 or 60 up here. That'd be a pretty wild ride. I like it. So, General Rush, good to see you. Mad, as always, good to see you. Jason, Amy, glad to have everybody. Mark, and all the other people who are just channel subscribers, like Donald, Larry, Wade, Craig, S. Kohler, Mary, Jan, Kenneth, Alan, Douglas, Diane, Rosalind, Andreas. Good to have everybody. Remember, tonight, 30 minutes of awesome, 5 p.m. The only day of the week that I do requests. I'll be here for at least 30 minutes. That's why we call it 30 minutes of awesome, 30 MA. And I give channel members priority. So if you're a member of the channel, I'll give you priority on your requests. So make sure you come see me tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's coming up. And bouncing around here. PPI came out this morning. All trading involves a substantial risk of loss. Past performance not necessarily indicative of future results. That means I predict things, and because we got it right in the past, doesn't mean we'll get it right in the future. This presentation intended to be informational, educational, fun, entertaining, not a recommendation to be buying or selling any financial instruments. So that means don't trade or buy or sell stocks, options, bonds, forex, futures, cryptos, treasuries. Don't do it. All right. There's a substantial risk of loss when you trade all these instruments. Financial instruments. And if you desire somebody to just tell you what to do, what's best for you in your financial situation, you're going to have to hire and consult a financial advisor, because that's not who I am and it's not what I do. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what the best thing for you and your account is. You have to do that with a financial advisor. You have to figure that out. So PPI came out here this morning. Dun, 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 dun. We came out lower than expected, getting a little pop in the market, a little bit of spiciness, and there we go. I said I was wrong. You know, I expected only a 0.1 deviation. That was actually a 0.2 deviation on the month over month. So that's got us a little spicy pop this morning. So, but you know, basically in line. They were expecting it to come in line with last month in December. We actually got a nice decline right there. So just hanging in the normal. Like, how does this compare to normal? You can see it right over here. Period, just choppiness, right? We're just right in the choppiness again. When we get a period like this right here, that's inflationary. You know, over here, these bigger numbers, they're inflationary. We're just kind of hanging. We're just kind of grinding. That's more normal. So we're doing more normal stuff here. Now, PPI came out today before CPI tomorrow. That's a big red cautionary flag to me. PPI doesn't usually come out, just typically, it's not like it's the rarest of rare events, but typically PPI does not come out before CPI. And when it does, usually there's some volatility in the markets, some chop and things like that. So be prepared when CPI comes out tomorrow morning. Dun, 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 right there. That's the Consumer Price Index. If you're new here, you don't know what the fudge that is. CPI is Consumer Price Index. It's commonly referred to as an inflation number. While it's not the same as what we used to do in like the 80s, they keep changing it, keep taking out all the stuff that we pay for every day. All the normal day expenses, it seems like we're not going to count that one. We're not going to count that one either. So I don't know how real it is. And then Jerome Powell likes PCE, which is Personal Consumer Expenditures, which is not coming out this week. It may come out in 2 weeks, I think. Let's see. Is it next week? I don't think it's coming out next week. And yeah, I think it's coming out the last week of the month. Let's see. Yeah, we do have an FOMC meeting coming up on the 29th, right before the end of the month. And yeah, there's PCE right on the last day of the month. Right on the last day, right there. So there's PCE coming out right on that last day of the month. We'll see how that... And those... It's like the same stuff goes into the CPI and PCE, but different... they adjust the percentages as far as how much count, the weighting, I guess, the weighting percentages. They adjust it on how it counts and generates the number. So I don't know. One counts housing more important, the other counts food more important, healthcare, all those sort of things. I'll tell you one thing that does matter. The one thing that matters more than anything else in all of that stuff is right here. When oil is popping, inflation goes up. We came up right into the zone that confirms a potential breakout. Right there, got above this right here. So we've met the first criteria, the second criteria, the third criteria, and now the fourth criteria right there. We've done 4 things that are super bullish. Now, I kind of, after a move like that, I do really expect a pullback. Now, the pullback can hold here. There's lots of arrows on the chart. Let's kind of clear that up real quick. So we've got this massive pop. The pullback could hold here, the breakout of the downtrend of highs, or it could come all the way back down to the roadmap line on the daily charts. That is possible. You can find support anywhere else, but these are the 2 most likely places if we're going to pull back. If we just keep ripping, well, upside targets, 90 and 105. That's the upside resistance, 90, 105. This potential right here ties in with the bonus trade of today, so stick around to the end. We'll cover that. Just a little teaser. But as this thing rips higher, inflation is going to spike back up. That causes a potential to have to raise rates. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Here's the current target rate that they set on the Fed funds rate. If you've never seen this before and you think the market and the Fed controls the interest rates, guess what? Guess what? DGS2 controls the interest rates. That's Delta Golf CR2. That's the 2-year constant maturity rate. That kind of controls the interest rates that you and I see when we get credit cards or loans for anything. Prime rate right there. Prime plus whatever. And Fed funds coming down. Gonna meet. Right there's the middle of their zone, if you will. We've got another rate change coming up potentially January 29th. They give it less than, I guess the odds are less than 25% they're going to do a rate cut anymore. And as the DGS2 creeps up, they may have to raise rates to chase that higher. Look at what it did over here. Look over here. When we were doing the fastest rate raises in history, we were trying to catch that, DGS2. They thought it was going to chill out, thought it was going to chill out, thought it was going to chill out. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, sugar honey iced tea, we got to catch up. Got to try to catch up, got to try to catch up, got to try to catch up. And then they caught it right up here. Funny enough, look when, like right here, when it kind of peaked out and started easing up, what did the market do? The market made a bottom and started going up. So the market started cranking down right here, early January in 22. Right in here, market started cranking down, went down, went down, went down, went down, and then found a bottom right in there. Early October. Then we started going higher again. New all-time highs as we chop sideways. So if we take another accelerated path higher, market might pull back. Just keep it in mind, okay? Something to keep an eye on. So there you go. There you go. All right. Yeah, I try not to use bad words because, it's just not, I try to keep it PG at least. And Major John, good to see you as always. So be careful out there. Every time the orange gets above the blue, at least since I've been trading, every time I just keep reiterating this for those who've been around for a while. You've heard me say it 9 gajillion times. Every time the orange gets above the blue, the Fed funds rate gets above the market rate, DGS2, every time we get some kind of financial freakout. That was known as the .com. This was the GFC, aka housing bust. This, rates freak out first, and then COVID. C19. If you think it was all just because of a virus, guess what? The market was already prepared for the crash that we got. So what's the one that's going to be over here? Big question mark. I don't know. Big question mark. Big question mark. We'll see. We'll see. There's going to be a financial crisis. Unlike Janet Yellen says that there won't be another one in our lifetimes. These occur pretty regularly. One in the 2000s, one in the 2007s, one in the, that was like 99, 2000. And 7 years later, that was kind of like a back-to-back. When you look at the S&P, it just went for 14 years. We got that in the 70s too. And then this one, big flash crash. And then this one, it's pretty regular. It seems like this went a little extra long in between these two here. A little extra long. We're going to have something. Something's going to happen. So we'll see what happens here. It's cooking. It's cooking. All right. S&P yesterday. Look at that reversal, man. We talked about it on Friday that there is a high likelihood when we make a lowest low on a Friday, like we did right there. There was a high likelihood that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the next week, we're going to make a lower low. Well, guess what we did yesterday? Lower low. Can't make that stuff up. Pretty darn nice. And look at that. That move right there. That went up and bounced. First move down, retrace. Next move down, hit right at the 1272. Isn't that crazy? Poked through the 618, retraced a little bit, and then boom, right down to it. Right there. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. It was almost like it was a 1 hour roadmap line bounce right there. Look at that. Dip, bounce to the roadmap line, push down. Oh, couldn't do it. And then got there right to the target. Upside down, roadmap bounce. Right there. Can't make this stuff up. Now, here's the here's the crux of the matter. Here's the crux. Now, is it likely we go visit the daily roadmap line? Yes, it is still likely. We got pretty darn close right there. Pretty darn close yesterday. What do I always say about these tails? I kind of warn about these little hammer tail things right here. That indicates reversal. This may rally back up to this line before we do that. Or it could break out above that and go higher. So that may be what we're doing. We've done it once, twice. Why wouldn't we do it 3 times? You gotta watch out for those reversals when they show up in the market. I jumped back into TSLL because the one on NASDAQ, I was warning yesterday that if we didn't close below that line, it could just hold that high. We retested the breakout right there. I was warning that as I wrapped up the show yesterday, if we get the close above that line, we may go higher, may break out here. That's exactly what, I mean, this one held. It made a valiant attempt all day to get back above that line. Back up here, that's the key on the upside. If we can break out, going higher. If we break down, get down here below that line, going down to the daily roadmap line. And if this happens all tomorrow, I mean, we could pop up there and come back down all today, but I don't think it's going to go that fast. But it's taken us 3 days-ish on average to decide to come back down. So we'll see. So far, we're holding that support, though. Holding that support. All right. I've warned, don't get too bearish. Like, trading to the downside is really difficult. I gave up my UVXY yesterday, too, when I saw this potentially bottoming out on QQQ. Look at UVXY, even though we're getting the volatility on the PPI number. See, look at this volatility we got. See that volatility? That was on the PPI number. It was positive volatility, but unfortunately that makes VIX drop when we get positive volatility. So VIX went boop. And UVXY dropping out here. Got to stay on your toes if you're going to trade the downside, because it can turn on a flash. All right, we met that criteria that we always talk about. That lower low met the criteria right there. That did it. Like, we got the lower low on Monday. Now, if you're new here, like, something crazy, like 95% of the time when we make a lowest low on a Friday, we will typically get a lower low Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the next week, because markets don't typically like to bottom on a Friday. Right? That was unlikely to be the bottom of the move. Just like 95% of the time, markets don't bottom on a Friday. It just kind of a weird thing. And when I say markets, I usually mean S&P 500. Doesn't like to make up the lowest low. And how does that work? Is it the lowest low of the week? Is it low? Usually it's the lowest low of a couple week period. All right. We don't usually end the week on a Friday on a bad note and not carry it on into Monday. That happened there. We got it. And as Rongamer was talking about last night, you gotta be, he's like, I can't convince myself that when we meet the criteria, we just close the trade. It's like, I guess you sit back and think about it. What's the thing that we're trading for? Lower low. So when you get the lower low, that's it. You can't expect more. Like, that met the criteria. You're done. You be happy with it. Like, that's, if you're trading for that one thing, that one high probability event, it's kind of like when we do the roadmap bounce and we get to the 1448. That's it. You'd be happy with the trade. All right. You could get more, but you should book the majority of your profit when we get to the 1448. Because anything extra is not a given. All right, we met the minimum criteria for the high probability trade. The high probability trade was a lower low. We met that right there. While this does seem likely, time frame is the big question. We could go all the way back up, bounce off the downtrend of lows before we come back down. So, gotta be careful. Time frame is the difficult part, right? We know it's likely to come down here and tag the roadmap line, but does it have to do it right now? No. Could it come all the way back up here first, then do it? Yeah. And if it breaks above that downtrend of highs, we know it's not going down there this time. Came up short right there, and it's not going to do it. And Goose says, this is, I'm using Rungamer as the example, but I did this to Goose too for quite a while. Like, what is your target? When you meet the target, that's it. Like, lock in your profit or do something to book some profit. It doesn't have to keep going. Like, that's once it meets the high probability thing, do what you can do to protect your profits. It's kind of like the gold rush trade. When we get that 50% pop, close it. Close it early. Get out. GTFO. Get the fudge out. Don't stick around. All right. Sometimes the thing you're expecting is a little thing. Sometimes the thing you're expecting pays you out big. I mean, sometimes we outperform on gold. Sometimes we outperform on crypto. Sometimes. UVX was sweet. Goose was able to get that one out. Like, that one popped. It didn't quite go to my target. I was hoping for it to tag the daily roadmap line. That was my target. I was hoping for it to hit that. We got close. Didn't do it. Now, the other thing at play here, go from that high, go to that low. Look at where we stopped. 618. Dadgummit. Tricky little 618. And that's why I gave up yesterday. That's why I closed it. Now we could come back down, find support one more time, and go again. Entirely possible. Right there. Entirely possible. All right. So NQ, probably going to bounce today. Probably. Russell. This one looks a lot more bearish. I would be very, very careful here. Looking for anything. All right. At this point, we've got that high in place right there. We've got this low in place right here. The resistance going higher right up there at the 618. And where this intermediate, we could just rally up to that and turn down again. So we've got a resistance right there, just from the rejection of those levels. And then we have the 618 level here. I don't know if that 618 level is fixed yet. It's just where it is for now. If this low is the low, the important low, that 618 level is right there. If this just bounces up here and continues down lower, then that 618 level keeps going down further. That's the difficult thing a lot of people have. They're like, oh, well, that 618 didn't matter. Yeah, maybe it won't matter until we get down here around 2000 and it pulls the 618 down to this level that's already shown to be an important level. That's the kind of weird thing. Like, this could be telling us that Russell's heading down here before we get the bigger bounce that comes up and tests that. All right. You never know for sure. Like, that's the hardest part about this whole thing is, like, how do you know for sure? Sure isn't a thing you get when you're playing this game. All right. You get high probability kind of things. And right now, a high probability thing. If we're going to rally off of this low, and this low is the important low, the resistance is right there. If that low is the important low and we rally up in a three-way fashion, we'll probably find resistance right there and turn down again. All right, that's how it works. You always have to be adjusting. Like if it does something different, you adjust. Adjust your levels, adjust your numbers. You can't stick to it, all right? How often you got to do it depends on your time frame you're trading. We already went through oil here, gold, and holding the downtrend of lows, or downtrend of highs, excuse me, lows, highs, uptrend of lows, downtrend of highs. We're making kind of this triangle thing. If we come down, we break down below that, we're probably coming down here. If we can break out above the downtrend of highs, we can go up to the 2,900 or 3,000 target on up. But this may flush back down to 2,500. Be very, very cautious here. Be very cautious. Bitcoin, that might have been that. There was some weird behavior yesterday when we did that right there. That might have been the bottom. Look at that. That might have been the flush I was looking for. See a big, deep move right there? That was 10 minutes. And then popped up, 5-minute roadmap line, retrace. And then we broke out. I added some of my BitX back. Right in here. Yeah, it was late in the day yesterday. It was actually 250 when we poked above right there. Added it back. We're going back up. Pull this over to the lowest low. We're right at the 618 level. This is important here. See this high right here? See this low? If we're going to get continuation, we need to hold this area right here. If we get above that, I have that alert sitting there. We get above this. Next level up is right there. That prior high. Get above that. We're pretty much done on the downside. 105, above 105, we're probably going on higher. That move, that move, that move. Oh, moving the wrong thing. That could have been done. Like that made a lower low than the blue line. Just like NASDAQ, just like ES. Possible. That can be done. We got to watch this upside resistance right here. Come on. Got to watch this upside resistance right here. We get above it. Time to get back in the pool. 105 is the confirmation that we're probably going higher. Be careful though. This one, not quite turning around the same way. Still an inside candle. Inside yesterday's range, this one may still fail out, even with Bitcoin rallying higher. Like, how could that be possible? Ethereum hasn't made a higher high yet. Lower highs, that's still bearish. Even though we confirm that we're likely to go higher on the bigger time frame, still hasn't made a higher high though. That can still fail. Still on the pros and cons for each setup. Like big con, 2 attempts at making a higher high and failing. 3 attempts if you want to count that one. 1, 2, 3. It makes a big question mark in my mind that we might not make a higher high this cycle on Ethereum. Their change to proof of stake may have wrecked it. Dollar grinding right in here. We have further upside resistance right in here. And this may break out and go higher. It's entirely possible. Entirely possible. I do expect this, if it's going to go down to the 90s here, to respect this, the top of this level right here. That's kind of the extreme level. If we get above that, it makes it more likely that we might go higher on up to like 117 instead of immediately breaking down and going lower in the next couple of years. NKD. Just chopping here. We haven't broke out, haven't broke down. Still just chopping, still just chopping. So global liquidity not really coming into play right now. If this breaks out, U.S. market probably going higher. If this breaks down, U.S. market probably going lower. If it just stays in this box, as we've been for a couple months now, global liquidity is not really playing into anything. All right, I go pull all the gainers, all the things moving $2 or more up in the pre-market, put it on the gainers list. Everything moving $2 or more down in the pre-market and put it on the decliners list. I run this scan one time. I don't update it. So if something started moving after I ran the list, it's not on the list. All right. Is it a comprehensive list? I don't know. I use a website called Market Chameleon. Use their pre-market movers list, and it's all kind of automated for me at this point. So I don't even look at the list before I come live. So Hess right here, he's, I guess, H&E Equipment Services, not the oil and gas producer. Nice big pop right up there. Can't even see the candle. It's somewhere right there. Nice pop. Looks like it's halted for whatever news. United Rentals. Yeah. So buyout deal right there. Buyouts are not tradable. It's one of the only news items. You know, there's just a few news items that move the market. Buyouts, they move the market. Bankruptcies, they move the market. CEO caught embezzling all the money, they move the market. Just a few news items. You know, other than that, most of the news items don't matter a hill of beans in the chart. And if you don't believe me, stick around a little while. United, of course, that was the people striking the deal. United Rentals, so URI. And not often we see the purchaser pop along with the purchasee popping. Usually it's inverse. Usually the purchasee pops and the purchaser drops. But we're seeing that pop a little bit. URI here. We've got the lowest low here. We've got the highest high here. If we can break up through the roadmap line, the next resistance is right there. And then we have that stupid gap down. It causes more resistance right in there. So there's a resistance zone right there. If we can get above that, next upside target would be right up there around 938. Not too bad. ASML, I still expect this to come down to the bottom of the box. That's a roadmap line bounce from below. If we break below that 618, down here becomes the likely target. 631, possibly 616. My target down around 600. We'll see. FNGU, that may come up shine. Like that may have been, funny enough, we hit the target. Look at that. Almost in the middle. Almost perfectly. Did I draw the target at the roadmap line? No, I drew the target right there. Why? First move down, retrace. Second move down. Boom. Right in there. Almost perfectly. So on this bounce, can it come up here? Resistance right there. Break above it. Probably going on up here. That'll be resistance on the way. And it's still possible we come on down here. Like we may get a little short reprieve. CPI tomorrow could take us down there. Could. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I have a bag of unicorn dust I have on the desk here. Keep it right there. But, you know, the unicorn dust only goes so far. Crystal balls, I haven't seen one that actually worked. Just have math. MSTR. This has a potential reversal in place. While the roadmap line is a highly likely target after breaking down, this has a potential reversal in place. I caution. See this right here. Let's jump down a time frame or two. See this right here, right? This, come on, come on. All my drawing tools stuck in the way here. We've got that low. Got this high right here. That low is the important low right now. This high is the important high right now. This retrace right down into the potential measured bounce zone. This right here, looking positive. Run that high to this low. We're right at the resistance. 618 resistance right there. As Goose says, I'm kind of like Neo in the Matrix. Like I can just see the fib lines without even drawing them at this point. I've done this so many times. If this breaks above, we start rallying up. We get above that 618. This thing can pop on off and start heading up to 1,000. So this potential reversal is in place. How do we know if it fails? This drops down, breaks below that. We're going down to the daily roadmap line. If Bitcoin bottomed out on that little rejection, going lower, it could be done. Like, could be, yeah, as Goose says, there could be leveraged truncation in the whole Bitcoin complex. Now, there's a lot of miners that don't look so hot. Like Riot, that's okay looking. That kind of looks like a reversal. Mora, that looks a little worse. That's a lowest low. That's not a higher low. That's not a reversal yet. Hasn't cooked up the reversal. Dang. BTBT, higher low. That potential reversal cooking. Bit Farms, a little nastier. That looks like barely the lower low there. CLSK, higher low, cooking a potential reversal. Not quite there. We're not above the roadmap line. So be careful. Like these don't all have to pop. All right. They don't all have to. There's a bunch more. I know. I'm not going to go through them all. Just be careful out there. Chasing that stuff. Tesla. On the 1 hour chart, I was talking about this yesterday morning. If we can hold the higher low, another potential reversal cooking. Coming right up. We're above that 618 level on this drop. If we can get above that high, this kind of kicks off the potential to rally on higher. Now, I know some people out there hoping we might continue this into earnings later on this month. Earnings coming up on the 29th, I believe it is. If we can continue churning here, it does make a pop more likely, but could do something we haven't seen before. So could rally up. There's no statistical significance of the trend into earnings. 70+% of the time we do see a drop on earnings, but that 28% of the time we do see a pop on earnings, and there's no trend. Like it can be rising into earnings and we get a pop. It can be dropping into earnings and we get a pop. Same thing with the drop. It can be rising into earnings and we get a drop. It can be declining into earnings and we get a further drop. I've run the numbers. I'll pull them up as we get closer to Tesla earnings, but there's no trend correlation. So even though it would look best if we dropped into earnings, make you feel better, it doesn't have to. We could start rallying here and then we could pop and just get the target. So be careful. Be careful putting personal bias of what you want to see. This correction could be done. Has a higher low. We could start rallying. It could start grinding higher. It can grind right back into those highs. We back tested fully the prior all-time high right there. Comes from right over here. These three all-time highs. That resistance, we back tested it all the way down. That was kind of what I wanted to see. I wanted to see it, back test it, hold it, and start breaking back above. That's what we're trying to do right here. Break on out. Probably 600 in the cards. That high, that low. Look, 500's right there. 528, 577. We might stop there. Or we could rally on up. 687, 753. That'd be crazy, wouldn't it? Could come all the way up to this crazy level up here. 1,000. What? This high. This prior all-time high right here. The low all the way down there. We got above the 618 there. We retraced it. Came back up. We came up shy of the 1448 so far. The 1272 right up there. It's that big correction we did from back in 2021 down to the bottom in 2023. We could come all the way up to 1,000. 1272, 600. That's why I keep talking about 600. 500, 1.1448. That's 90% of the way to the 1272. Those are high likelihood targets like that. Why am I so bullish? If we don't hit those targets, it's a bummer. We're likely to hit at least that 500 target. All right. Coin. That got crazy close yesterday. I really wanted to see that touch. And this still may touch. Like we may get one more little go down here, touch, and then bounce. Still waiting for that coin to touch that. And Connell, if you believe we're done, there's a potential right there. You could play with the leverage, buy shares in that without buying options on coin. Back to it. KBH, KB Homes. That had a bounce, and we're still below the roadmap line. Watch for that to decline. Right there, GEV, GE Veranova. Hey, last consolidation we popped. This consolidation, if we pop the same, can take it up to 700. CEG, that's topped out. I would be careful chasing more. Like I said, high probability. What was the high probability thing? When we closed above the 618, it became high probability. We touched this 299, 300 area. Guess what we did? We touched the 299, 300 area. If you were in it and you were chasing it, protect your profit. No more upside is guaranteed high probability. All right. This 1448, 75% likely. The 1272, 70% likely. The 1618 drops off to like 40% likely, 35, 40%. That's how much it drops from right here to right here. 70% likely, 40% likely. That's a big drop in likelihood. That's why I go for this target all the time. That one's not a guarantee. It's not even high probability. That's why I don't shoot for it all the time. Can you get it? Sure. Should you book profit when you get here or protect it or something? Yeah, probably. Race, downside, extension potential. We're chopping under the roadmap line. Downtrend intact until we get back above. Nail, ooh man, that made a lower low. That might come on down. Home builders struggling. That low, that low, that low. Yeah. Be careful. This is leverage. Be careful on leverage. That's home builders and supplies. This may be indicative that there's a bigger problem going on in housing. We're already seeing it across several charts. PTIR. This is popping a little bit, but wait. If PLTR drops to the roadmap line, this would be an epic entry down here. This could take a while, and it could take all the way out to, you know, March out here to do it. Just watch out. Like, don't get too overly bullish on PTIR or anything like that. We could, if PLTR retraces back down to the roadmap line, that's like 40% downside. This being a 2x leverage on that would be an 80% downside. We started tracking that from up here when it was at 136. We're already down to 90 area, and it can come all the way down to like 27 area. Be careful. MTSI, Matcom Solutions, Matcom. That looks like it wants to come back to the roadmap line. That one popped, stalled out, hit the target, hit the extension target, and now we might retrace. Resistance, 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 resistance. Back to the roadmap line, set up a new trade. BLDR, builder's first source. That one's looking kind of sketch and may go lower. Hasn't made a lower low like nail, but it did break down through the down. Look at that back testing. See, it broke down through the uptrend of lows, even though it was just 2 lows. Back testing. If this holds, it can flush. App. Looks like it wants to come back to the roadmap line. Until it does, there's no high probability setup for anything. CRM. Looks like we're grinding back down to the roadmap line. Find support and turn higher again. Till it does, I don't really have any high probability anything set up. You could jump down time frames if you think that's what it's going to hold. I don't know. Just keep it simple. Stay on the daily. This could bounce right off this 4 hour. Break through that 618 and go higher. Daily, just keep it stupidly simple. KISS. Stay on a day time frame. You know, don't bounce around. You start bouncing around, you can get yourself chopped up. Bulls made a 3-wave retrace into the roadmap line. Could hold and bounce. Let's kind of clear it up. We didn't hit the high from this retrace back here. We came up shy. Break back above. Oh, look how perfect that looks. You see how that 618 lines up right with that high. Break above that level. Sets up this high probability move right up in there. Let's check out what the statistics are. And it's done it 3 trades in the past, 100% of the time. And see the 100% right above the monster can there. I know I'm in the way. There you go. That's not leveraged. Put me back on the other side. All right. CRWD. Let's turn those statistics off. Chart back. CRWD looks like we're drifting down toward the roadmap line. Did not break out and go higher. So watch out for that to drift back down to the roadmap line, find support, and turn higher again. VST might be heading toward the 189. It's not, I mean, these fib lines drop off more and more. If you've been through the fib class, these, like this one down to 40%, that this one drops way on down, and we get all the way down where it's less than 1% likely we get a move all the way out to the 686. Still potential. We can still see it. It's just that less than 1% of moves will go all the way there without going to hit the roadmap line again. Toll Brothers, below the roadmap line, watch for a bigger flush. DHI, below the roadmap line, watch for a bigger flush. That is below that downtrend of lows, or uptrend of lows, excuse me. Get my up and downtrend. That one broke below, could come up and back test, and could go down further. That one, that's a pretty big uptrend of lows right there. That's a significant break. We could back test and flush bigger. That would be a warning sign right there if we did that. If you like short trades, watch for those breakdowns, retest, and flush. FUTU. And that could be a measured bounce setup right there. Could be. Could be a rocket ship bounce even. I don't usually like to see it midstream though. Could be. I wouldn't expect much more than 155 probably. BNTX, biotech stuff. Just be careful. Mess with this. Big picture, that looks like it's just a correction and we're gonna go lower. Resistance is up here at 161. And continuation is still lower at this point. Even if we got up to here. If we break through resistance, we can talk upside, but right now that looks like could rally up here and still go lower. I don't trade biotech just because the unknowns, like there's too much volatility there for me. Lennar, another home builder, looking pretty pitiful. Broke through the downtrend, or broke through the uptrend of lows. I keep saying downtrend, uptrend of lows. Broke through. That can lead to a bigger flush. How much bigger flush? That low, that high. We could come all the way down here. DPST. Banks report earnings this week. Kicking off. I mentioned that we might see around, like, especially in my term by trading group, I was like, with the amount of banks that have kind of retraced into bank earnings, we might see a pop on bank earnings. So that may be what we see here. And we could see a further decline into the roadmap line on something like this, and then a bounce. Other stuff already potentially bounced. Hard to say. Hard to quite read the tea leaves here. It's a very muddy pattern. FAS got really close. This could be indicating that we might see a bounce. Break higher. Extension. That's a leverage on financials. Wow, there's a lot of stuff on the list today. We'll have to get cooking. TSM, probably retrace the roadmap line. DXYZ, probably retracing back to the roadmap line, if not the whole move up. NVDU, caution, we broke down below that, just like home builders. Broke down below. And I said, if you like shorting, watch for the back test. Watch out below for NVIDIA. The leverage stuff might tell the story better than the actual NVIDIA chart. Watch out for that to flush. Just warning. It's a warning sign. It's a light flashing on my indicator. Be careful. TMDX looks best if we keep going down. SMH holding the roadmap line really well so far. But riding dirty on the roadmap line does not give me confidence that we're just going to bust out and go. Watch for a flush. This looks best if we make a lower low. If NVIDIA cracks, this can go down with it. TGX, TGTX, another therapeutic, pharmaceutical, biotech thing. Back to the roadmap line, probably. MDB broke down. Uptrend of lows. That one's kind of a loose uptrend of lows. Back down to the bottom, though. I don't know. This would look really good if we can hold that 618. It may need to make a lower low, just nominally lower than what we've done so far. Might need to come down, make one more low before we can get out of this funk. PDD is at the bottom. Is this a higher low? Might this launch off? Can't say for sure. Doesn't make me feel good with the depth that we've retraced. Could make a lower low, just like I was talking about on MDB there. MSTX, if you think MSTR has set up a higher low and a reversal, this might be one you would buy some shares of to take advantage of a potential breakout pop. If we go rocking and rolling up to like 1,000. This could come up to somewhere in the 2, 3, 400 area. A-Lab probably looks like it needs a retrace. BitX, if Bitcoin made the bottom here, rock and roll, but I still kind of expect, why didn't I buy a full position? Because I kind of still expect this to do one more flush out to the roadmap line, because it all looks best if it does that. It might not. And that's why I went ahead and bought a little bit back. HODL, Solana strategies, and just kind of grinding the top there. Solana, USD. Don't usually look at Solana. That's not really doing much. So potential for this to have bottomed on the roadmap line. That high, that low. Look, this is why. See how that's right there at that high? Keep talking about this, how once this is in place, the 618 usually sits in a really good spot. That is indicative that that low is now fixed as the lowest low. And we now get a rally up here, break above the 618, and set up the high probability extension. This looks really good for Solana being bottomed, but it can always wreck it. All right. And that was the downturn of highs, and we back tested it fully. It looks right. It looks ripe to be in the right spot. That's an important level. We get above that, probably going higher. That just keeps grinding higher. No retrace. BTCL looks like that 2x leverage on Bitcoin wants to come down and hit the roadmap line. PHM, that's already below the roadmap line, may go lower. ARKB, that's a Bitcoin ETF. Still looks best if we flush down. AMAT, below the roadmap line. Watch for the bigger flush down here. Proportional move would put it right down in this 145 area, possibly all the way down to 130. Carvana, not bouncing immediately here. If we get below the roadmap line, watch for a bigger flush. I do have one put out till 2026 December time frame, or January 2026. Reddit, this looks like to me it wants to roll down, retest the roadmap line, possibly out here when it comes up. And if we get below that, we could go deeper, go back and fill the gap and retest the breakout level. Be careful. The upside limited on Reddit right now till it recharges. It can rest. It can rest sideways, kind of like, gosh, I don't remember which chart it was. GE Veranova, I think it was. Yeah, GE Veranova. You see how it rested and then popped? Rest, potential pop. Reddit can do that. Reddit can just rest here for a month or 3 or 4, sideways for a little bit, chopping in a range, and then do another of these expansions here. Could. Most likely path, easiest path to recharge energy, retrace. It's the easiest thing to do. Just get a pullback, and then we can go higher again. Possibly from there, possibly from there. BITU, leverage Bitcoin. Still looks best if we hit the roadmap line, but it could be done here. Could be done. Could be a lower time frame bounce. Could be a 4-hour. I don't usually watch the 4-hour most of the time, but I do have it in mind that the 4-hour did hit on a lot of these charts. If it's going to be super bullish, we don't always bounce off the daily chart. Got it in mind. Pull that low down just a little more. See that this 618 just isn't sitting in the right spot. Like, it doesn't look like that's the spot where it should be. Looks like it should be just a little bit lower, like right there. That's why I say that coin may get a little more flush. Could see this spike down to here and then set up that Just doesn't look finished. I know it's a leverage chart. Leverage doesn't always follow the patterns, doesn't always set up properly, but it just doesn't quite, something's not quite right there on coin. ARM sitting on that roadmap line, keeps blurring it up, muddying it up, riding dirty here. We may see that flush down, retest this area. I've been talking about that for like a year. It's probably going to do it at some time, at some point. AVGO, watch for this to push on down. Right there, this correction, first move down, retrace, next move down, looks best if it can at least get here, and it may come all the way down to the roadmap line. And the breakout. Roadmap line almost up to the breakout level. We may see it go retrace to that breakout level. And CE. Yeah. Nothing going on there. We're back near the lows. This looks like it might even go lower low. NVIDIA. It's now double topped, down, heading down, cruising toward the roadmap line. We haven't been there since back here. August and September. Probably due for another visit. Hadn't really made any substantial further upside. Having a lot of trouble getting up there. It did hit the 1.1448. Double tested it. Back to the roadmap line. And just in case you don't understand what I'm talking about, that right there. See how we hit the 1448 right there? Can't move them when I try, but I can when I'm not trying. Right there, double tested it. Couldn't push through. Retrace back to the roadmap line. That right there, couldn't break out. Retrace back to the roadmap line. PCAR. Stuck at the 618 zone and the roadmap line. Stuck. If we break back down, going lower. If we break up, can go on up higher. And let's replace that with a new one that has the 1448 on it. And that low, that high. If we break down below this 618, set up that move right there. All right, kind of what we got cooking. Next up, First Solar, under the roadmap line, keeps beating its head on that and probably going to flush lower at some point. I see 150 as a kind of an ideal support zone, but it could go lower. It may not. It may come up shy at hitting that. I don't usually trade for the downside because the market's biased to the upside. 10% a year for the last 100 years, as we had in a presentation I did yesterday with Jeff Smith. EETH, just chop it sideways, not really trending, not really looking particularly spicy, just kind of nasty. I don't really have any opinion here. Either way, it's going to have to break back above this set of highs. That's a downtrend of highs. Going to have to break back above that to indicate we're going higher on that one. NVIDIA. Watch out. Now, NVIDIA did make higher highs, right? But these leverage ones did not. That's a big red caution flag in my book that we may be about to experience bigger liquidation in NVIDIA. CLS. Things, it's been a saying for a long, long time in the market. Things can remain irrational longer than you can stay solvent. That's kind of like NVIDIA can sit here and grind the high way longer than anybody can stay short before it finally breaks. It's kind of like SMCI took way longer than I thought to actually break down and go lower. We got the target. It just took way longer to actually start heading there in a big way. I warned when we did this, actually when we did that whole move right there, we were likely going back down to this zone down here. We sat and consolidated for months before we finally broke down and got it. I ran out of time. Actually, I ran out of time in here before it actually broke down over here. And hot stove, I didn't go back into it. I would have made a crap ton of money. For those of you that bought enough time, you did do pretty good on that, as I recall. So NVIDIA eventually will do a retrace. How long? That's the big question. Like, time is the hardest part of this whole thing. Time is still the part I struggle with. What if you did it this way? What if you did it that way? What if? There's a lot of what ifs. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. I haven't figured out a reliable way to do time yet. When I do, I guess I'll be the wizard, but you know. FBTC probably looks best if we come back down. This is Fidelity Bitcoin ETF. And as I've talked about the last couple of weeks, this one does not have options. If you want to play with one of these, this one does not have options. IBIT does have options. You can sell calls, upside calls, 20% upside. I mean, Michael Saylor says 20% a year for Bitcoin, right? He expects that. So if you expect 20% upside, play for 20% upside. You can sell calls, get a little extra juice on it. ANF, possibly shoulder, head, shoulder. If we're breaking down, watch for that bigger flush potential. USD, another shoulder, head, shoulder. That one can break down. That's a semiconductor ETF. SPXL, we did, look at this crazy stuff here. Let me put me on the other side again. Look at this. 75% of the time, when we bounce off the roadmap line and kick off the entry above the 618, we go on to make a higher high. 2.8 profit factor. If this thing kicks off, nice potential to rally up there. Got to get above that 618. Of course, it has the downtrend highs cooking for it too, so be careful. That's a pretty good one though, hanging out there. TSLR, watch for that to retrace the roadmap line. TECL, looking nasty. GBTC, watch for that to come back down. That's another Bitcoin. That one's actually holding up really well compared to Bitcoin. Snow, watching for that resistance at that 618 level, that high, that low, that 618. Want to see that. If it gets to there, that's time to be shopping for a position. If we hold that and turn higher, because this thing can rip new all-time highs. DDOG, coming back down to the roadmap line. Watch for that to bounce. If we hold it, bounce up to the 618, could be looking for that. Not there yet. Oracle, ooh, that one, looking for the resistance right there. The gap fill, though, makes that one a little nastier. 205 on the upside potential. FAS, already kind of talked about this. That's potential to bounce here. Break back above that 618. Get extension of 191. That'd be pretty good. KOLD. Let's check on natural gas really quickly. Just chopping here. Made a higher high. Interesting. Oh, didn't like that. We did make a higher high, but we rejected it really freaking quickly. Wow, look at that. Right to the 1448 at 430 and then pushing back down. I still expect the roadmap line after that extension. Could go as high as 479, but this just looks likely that we're going to crush it back down here. TSLT, that's 2x leverage on Tesla. If we believe Tesla's going higher, there's another way to play. TSLL is my weapon of choice. VRT, watch for that to come back to the roadmap line. LBU, that one's probably going for a lower low. We're down to the 618 support. If we get below it, kind of tips the odds we're flushing on down. QCOM has a measured bounce set up potentially in place, but it could go a little deeper. Could come on down here. Keeping an eye on that one. We have not been able to break above that level up there to indicate we're going on higher. Nice. Looks like we're heading down here. MU. Just chopping in the zone. Support pretty clear right here. Resistance pretty clear right here. We just keep chopping. If we can break out, MUU would be a good one. Marvell. Chips stuck at resistance. Maybe, like I said, it can go on up to 177, but that becomes a lower probability to get the extension before retracing to the roadmap line. It did a solid breakout. It may consolidate sideways and then pop. It may retrace and then pop. Those are the two more likely paths, but it also could retrace, break that back down below the breakout level and do a deeper retrace. So kind of the three potentials right there. CRDO, watch for that to retrace. That was kind of way up there. I don't know, maybe as high as 117. It's a muddy chart that without very many pullbacks and a kind of going exponential, but crazy can keep getting crazier. CRL, looking at the things declining now. Charles River Laboratories, it's going to be some kind of experimental something that looks like it's heading lower. ICLR, nasty chart, no sign of a bottom. SIG, man. Wow. That high, that low, that high. Probably going to make a move down into this area right here. Probably what that one's going to do. Yang. The yin and the yang. This is a declining asset. Be careful. Yin is the opposite of it, and it looks pretty bad too. So these don't look very tradable between the yin and the yang. IQV. Choppy sideways. Not really indicative of any trend. Boyle came up to the roadmap line. Watch for that to bounce back down. This is a declining asset and will probably plummet out over the coming months. AEHR is looking pretty nasty right there. Would not surprise me to drop back down in the low single digits. PHIO, that's a dumpster fire. What's the criteria of a dumpster fire? A long-term downtrend, sustaining a move under the roadmap line for a long time, picking up reverse splits along the way, which collapse the number of shares available. That makes it a dumpster fire. Probably going to get continuation towards zero. It's just a high probability. And if you mess with it, you're likely to lose your money. Be careful. DJT. There's the upside target potential right in there. 59. If we can do it. EHTD. Ultra short Ethereum. So as Ethereum drops, this pops. As Ethereum pops, this drops. And if Ethereum's going higher, this is going to dumpster fire itself out lower. The warrants on DJT might be possibly a better trade. 52 on the upside from 28. That's 60 on the upside from 39. Yeah. So risk to reward, that one might be a little better. DEO, down to the target. Can we hold it? Or are we going to go on down to possibly down here around 100? Not sure. Still waiting for a bottom. No sign of bottom. Bonus trade for the day, XOP. Check this baby out. Check this baby out. Let me pull up the statistics really quickly. Dun, 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 dun. Copy that. Paste her over here. So XOP, new potential entry. Target is 153.48. Stop below 123. Closed at 141.91 with a potential profit of $11.57. 81% of the time, this rock and rolls. 4.2. Look at that profit factor. Pretty smoking hot. 33 days on average. So let's go look at that and see if it actually kicked off what we would look for. Pop up the Apollo. Oh, look, it did take the entry right there. That high, that low. There's the entry right there. Look for that move right there. 153.48 is the official number. I didn't quite click on the highs and lows properly. I don't like the magnet tool. This has a 81.25%. Can't see it for me. 16 trades though. That's the only downside. That's half of a statistical population. 33 trades, 33 days on average. That's trading days, not calendar days. Don't just buy a month and say, why didn't it work? 33 trading days is actually almost 50 calendar days. And this could last 2 times. It could take twice as long. It could take 66 bars to get there. That would be 97, almost 100 days. So we'd be well out into late April. Possibly May, possibly June. To get that move. $11 move. Shares are a viable way to play this. Options also, but make sure you have enough time. All right, you can let me know if you take it. Let me know how you do on it. Bias for the day. Still looking up. Looking like the bounce is continuing here. Maybe found a little resistance at the 1 hour. If we can get on through, watch for that to rally on up here. Long way to go on the SPX. Potentially bottom it out. Be careful out there. Remember, 5 p.m., be back live. Come see me. Have a great day. Stay safe out there. The account you save may be your own.